Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rebel Hearts with Kristie Reeves. I am so happy you're joining us today, and we have another amazing, wonderful guest for today's show. And today's show is all going to be about love and transformation, spiritual awakenings, and I'm really happy to introduce him to you. His name is Keith Anthony Blanchard, and I was actually on his show a couple of weeks ago at Center of Light Radio, and we talked about the indigo and the rainbow children and the new generation of kids that is here to save this planet. And I'm so happy he's going to be on Rebel Hearts today, so let me tell you a little bit about Keith. Keith Anthony Blanchard is the founder and host for Center of Light Radio, whose listening audience now reaches 3 million people. Keith is the author of several books, including his original book, which is now a bestseller, The Divine Principle Anchoring Heaven on Earth, For the Love of God, A Spiritual Journey, and the children's book series named after his son, Eden Sky Wonders Why. Keith has produced and co-produced 2 films, Do What You Love and The Meek Shall Inherit the Earth. As a spiritual teacher, Keith is remarkable in his natural, sincere love and acceptance of all people, which is palpable to those who connect with him. And he's also a musician, and every time I talk to him, he's like, I'm off playing a gig somewhere. So I'm so excited he's joining us today. Welcome to Rebel Hearts, Keith Anthony Blanchard.
Yay. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much, Keith, for taking the time to talk with us today. I'm so happy you're going to be on the show. I've known you for a bit more than a year, and we've been following each other on social media, and I'm really excited about chatting with you about love and transformation, and also, you know, getting to know a little bit more what you're all about after you've been interviewing me.
What else is there? Love and transformation. Love is transformation. Transformation is love. So nice little tight package with a lot of bang.
Yeah, absolutely. So where I actually would like to start, because I always feel everybody who's on this show has a journey that got him or her to where they are right now. And it's usually, sometimes it's a very significant incident. Sometimes it's like a series of incidents that led us on this journey of seeking and finding and stepping into the path that we are walking on today. And I feel just like by people sharing their own journeys of how they got to where they're at and what is driving them, what is motivating them, what is inspiring them, I feel we can inspire and empower the Rebel Hearts audiences over here. So what I would like to find out, what was the beginning of the journey that you're on right now? What inspired you? What was that? Was it a big bang that where you woke up one day and went like, oh my gosh, this is my path? Or was it a series of events? What was it, Keith?
It was pain.
It was pain, okay.
It was a painful relationship that dissolved, and I found myself in the dark night of the soul for 2 years. And I had enough. All of my life, I was destined for God. And early in my life, I had an electric guitar, so God stayed in the closet. I always wanted to be a professional musician, but also at an early age, went to a seminary and was thinking of becoming a Catholic priest.
Wow.
So God goes in the closet, and then I begin to live the lifestyle of a musician. And my girlfriend was my shelter. She was my food. She was my transportation, because I was an aspiring musician. And when she left, so did everything else. And I had nothing.
Wow. And
I was put on my metaphorical spiritual knees, and I began to say this fervent prayer out loud to the universe, to God, saying, I need to hear your voice. I need to hear your voice. Now, even though this happened, I said this prayer for 3 weeks to a month. I don't believe it was the length of time that I said this prayer that convinced higher consciousness source to say, all right, I believe him that he's serious. Let me go pay him a visit. It was the level of passion, right? It was the level of passion and sincerity. And if I only asked it that one time, the door would have opened. But 3 weeks later, after a night of playing music, which I do for a living, I was dog tired. I got finished playing seven sets at a casino. And I go to bed, and about 6 a.m, I hear, good morning, Keith. It's time for you to wake up.
Whoa.
So I look around my house, and there's no one in the house. dismissed it as a dream voice, laid back down in my bed with the intentions of going back to sleep. And the voice said, "Good morning, Keith. I asked you to wake up." And it didn't mean out of your night's sleep. It actually meant out of your human slumber. And I was thrown back on the bed, and I fell into an absolute divine experience. I tasted the voice. I smelled the voice. I could hear the voice. I could feel the voice. It was in every molecule around me. It was a super conscious experience. It was in my clothing. It was in the bed. It was in my eyes. That's exactly what it was. The image I'm looking right now on the screen. It was an absolute experience. And the voice spoke to me in one impression, and it took my linear mind to process it, to understand it as any human being would. And the voice instructs me to sit on my sofa, press record on my tape recorder. And I said, "What will I talk about?" I said, "Trust me, Keith, go into a light meditation. The thoughts will come." And I did. And my mouth began to move beyond my own volition, beyond my own will. And begin to log the most far out or far in information I've heard to that point in my life. And after a year of doing that, I was told to stop the meditation and receiving information, take the information I have and begin to live it. Begin to live it to make sure it's concrete, solid, and that it works. And so, because I didn't want to recite stuff just like a parrot, just a bunch of stuff. And so after living these principles and putting my life experiences, my thoughts and my feelings, using this to bring everything together, is what became the manifestation of my bestseller, The Divine Principle. So the book is basically God and I are having a dialogue, somewhat like Conversations with God.
Neil Donald
But
Walsh,
it definitely wasn't plagiarized or ripped off from Neil Donald Walsh, because I was halfway through this book before Neil ever came out with this first book. So that's how it all started for me.
That must have been such an incredible experience. And how was it? You had that big bang happening to you. How did you feel afterwards? Or what were those next steps on your journey?
I was scared to death.
Okay.
I wasn't scared of the presence. There was no time for fear. I didn't know how my life was going to unfold from that point forth. What does a person do with such things? Because at first, honestly, I felt special. How could you not feel higher? Because the whole experience was higher. But I had to learn to tone that down and realize, I was new. It was new for me. I didn't know how to process this. I didn't know who to tell, how to tell them, what to tell them. And I was not concerned about how people would think of me. That wasn't really the gig. I wanted to be effective and successful in my endeavor of bringing this to the masses without scaring them off. So it was a learning curve.
Yeah. And how, if so many people, they have this big awakening, or they have a specific, or they even have a dream, or they have a feeling, okay, this is my mission, this is my path. And there is so much fear within them that keeps holding them back, or that keeps doubting themselves. Am I really on the right journey? Am I just making this up? Or is this really what I'm supposed to do? What helped you in that process to go, I'm just going to do this anyway? I know there's fear showing up, but like you said, there was no time for fear. What helped you? What supported you? Or were there certain processes or practices that you had that just allowed you to keep connecting in and override the voice of doubt and fear?
I had no choice in the matter. The decision was already made, and that was actually encrypted in the visits I would get. I would get up I was late night. I lived my life late night being a musician. But I would sit in my computer chair from 12 noon to 6 at night, sometimes 12 noon to 9 at night, and would not get up from that seat except to get water, food, or use the restroom, or maybe run some errands for the day or for the week or for the month. But I had no choice in the matter.
Wow.
Every time these visions, impressions, meditations would come, it was all purposeful. It was all on point. It was all part of my destiny. And I began, not only would I go in meditation and get information, sometimes I would ask a question and get an answer. Sometimes I'll just get information. I would form a question around the answer. Sometimes I would ask a question and get nothing at all in meditation. And you and I would go have a bite of food 2 weeks later, and we're in a booth in a restaurant. And I'm not eavesdropping, mind you. I'm hyper present and hyper aware. I can feel, hear, and intuit what's happening behind us. And all of a sudden, someone will say something that would be the answer to the question that I posed 2-3 weeks before in my meditation. And some people say, well, how will you know that was the answer? Because how it made me feel It made me feel aligned and connected. In fact, the answer that I heard in the booth is the one that said, "This is the answer to the question you posed, Keith. Write it down." And so I knew I had to push forth. It was just all joy for me. It wasn't really pushing forth and making a decision through doubt. Because when I would do these sessions, dear Lord, I had so much bliss move through my body. How could you say no to that?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And you said two things that I feel like are so important. We should quickly talk about them. Number one, that listening. Just like being open for the divine to speak to you, even if it comes from people sitting in the booth next to you. And number two, that inner, I call it the inner calibration, that inner compass. How am I feeling when I'm doing what I'm doing? And is it making me feel good, or is it making me feel yucky? Is it making me feel joyful, or is it feeling like I have a struggle, it's a burden? And to really learn, I feel like we're so exterior motivated. We're so imprinted from the outside constantly, and we're so in our brains instead of in our hearts, that I feel we need to transform. Talking about transformation, we need to transform to reconnect to that inner compass where we're looking, feeling, realigning, and listening. Yeah.
Absolutely, because when you follow that inner compass, you become the captain of your own master ship. And you asked me the question a minute ago about what was it like to have that bang, that big burst of light. Well, I do these live video feeds on Facebook called Burst of Light. And if I may, I'm doing one tonight, 8:00 Central Standard Time on my personal Facebook wall on music, the language we all understand. But to answer the question that you said, what is it like to have that bang? Since I began this series of videos, Burst of Light videos, that I do about once a month, different topics, I've been doing it for about 1.5 years. And Kristie, my level of awareness is growing.
Wow.
Something has come.
Amazing.
Inside of me recently, and begin to sit and live in me. And it's an expanded awareness. And I would like to maybe do that here, at least before the broadcast, but lead up to that moment to where I want to open up the listening audience, because I have the ability to help you see a greater degree of who you are. But I'm getting these bangs of light, these bursts of light, hence the reason I named that live video feed. They come in like you and I's dialogue now. When I have to pause and take a breath, it's because I'm truly being overwhelmed and being slammed with divine energy, light.
Amazing.
And my body doesn't know how to process it. So I might go into a crying spell because I have to burn it off. I've more and more in my life now, as I did when I was writing The Divine Principle. When a person becomes open like that and your body and your energy field is not used to it, crying is one way to burn it off.
Interesting.
It's too rich. It's like cheesecake. Too much, you had enough. Right?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And you just said something that is so cool, because as you were sharing about how you doing this regularly is affecting you and how bigger the inflammation, or how bigger and more potent the energy gets, I'm feeling, that whole journey is kind of like a muscle that we have to train. And and some people go like, why, I should just like have that opening, be able to do everything and listen to my inner voice. And sometimes it's really that muscle. And by doing it regularly, like you are doing your bursts of light on a constant basis, training that muscle and opening and strengthening, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Ooh. Whoa, something is working through here. Whoa, that has never ever happened on the show, has it, Jarvis? I'm looking at Jarvis over here. Last week we had a mouse. Today we have echoes. The voice of the divine is echoing through our show.
Well, it's funny you say that. There's two things one thing you said and one thing that just happened that is actually very poignant. And I have it on a list of notes I have here. One is, when we do awareness expansion, It's lifting a weight. When you go to the gym and you want to build your muscle mass, you start with 25-pound weights and you graduate until you develop this physical mass. Same with awareness expansion, which we're going to do later. I'm going to give you a 25-pound weight and help you expand. And as you continue to work with the awareness expansion, your awareness mass begins to grow. And something that just happened, that echo, that feedback, when you go listen to music or a rock band and they got it too loud or they don't know what they're doing, how to set the equalizer on the system, you hear what's called feedback. Well, what feedback is the sound that goes into the microphone, comes out of the speaker into the microphone, out of the speaker into the microphone, and it creates a regeneration process. It creates a loop. And even though it's unpleasing to hear, there's an expansion that takes place. So when it comes to awareness and spiritual expansion and to developing yourself, developing your spiritual mass, when you begin to curve back within yourself, God lives here. If I was to ask anyone in the audience to point to yourself, you point here. That's who you are. If I ask a person to point to God, we know that God lives within. You point here. So now the two become synonymous.
Yes. Yeah.
So when we begin to do the work and clear the fog and the monkey mind stuff that's muddled around the mind, we thought this is seeing our whole life. Well, I can see pretty good until we realize, wow, this is what seeing is. That's when the self begins to curve back within itself and it creates a regeneration process. And you begin to expand just like that microphone and speaker analogy. And then you will find God in your life present at a conscious level. At first, you may begin to feel the presence and it gets bigger. And you feel the presence and it gets bigger and bigger and larger and more grandiose until there comes a day you no longer feel the presence. You are the one that is present.
Yes. Amazing. Yes. Awesome. Woof. Yeah. Hoof to that. Keith, tell us a little bit more about your first book. What is one of the big messages from the book that you would like to share with us?
As time goes by, it is very important, bold print, all capped, underlined, exclamation pointed 3 times. Is as time goes by, the light that's slowly but surely descending upon the earth, or rather through us, will begin to bring out the darkness in everything. Society, the world, the news, within you. And I strongly suggest that you move through whatever issues you have in your life, fear, jealousies, control, whatever your dynamic is for you, because there can and will come a day that if you do not address your stuff, it can happen at a level that you cannot tame the monster.
Yeah.
And you may find yourself on a level that you are not consciously aware of, wanting to check off of this planet. And you can and/or/will create a reason for your leaving it.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important messages. If you plan to stay on the planet and be a part of the heaven on earth prophecy, if you plan on being part of the Meek, we have to get out of, there's 3 things I say all the time, Kristie.
Okay, tell us.
One is the truth does not require anyone's permission to exist. So what is the truth? You can bet there are things that exist that we know nothing about. And also the things that we were never taught doesn't mean they're not true either. The other is get out of the fight. I always say get out of the fight. The fighting with your loved ones, the fighting with your relationship, the fighting with the terrorism in the world, the racism in the world, the fighting within yourself, because all that fighting is just an internal bickering. We have to move through that stuff. And the other is you can water the weed or you can water the plant. And whatever one we give our focus and attention to is the one that is going to grow. If you're tired of what's happening in the world, stop pouring your nurturing water into the weed. Water the plant, which is the truth does not require anyone's permission. And that truth is the divine, is omnipresent. It's present in all places at all times. There is nothing it is not, says Webster's dictionary. If the dictionary is our resource for language, And it's agree of how we communicate telepathically, and we project our imagery through written word, and we use utterances to convey ideas. And we agree that this is our basis for language. Omnipresent says present in all places at all times. Hence the reason I pointed to myself and I pointed to spirit. It's all the same. In fact, Yeshua, Christ said, seek ye the kingdom of God within. Do not say low here, no low there.
Or
the
not
kingdom
without.
of God is within you. It's within you. It's within us. And when we begin to touch that place and you activate that field, wow.
Yeah. And I want to circle back to how we started this part, where you said, okay, you need to deal, as the light is moving through it, you need to deal with the darkness that is surfacing. And it was really interesting. We had Diana Cooper on the show I think it's been a couple of months ago. And one of the questions I asked her is the question that I've been getting asked in my lectures, which is, you know what, if we're really moving into this new golden age, into the age of enlightenment, into the spiritual new age, why is there so much darkness and pain and war and all these terrorism, all these things that are currently happening on this planet? And her answer was, well, you know, it's been there for a long time and it has to surface, it has to come up in order to be healed. And I believe we're living in the age of illumination, where the truth cannot be denied anymore, where things are becoming illuminated, and they need to become illuminated in order to be healed. No matter if it's a microcosm, what is it that is within us from past lifetimes, epigenetics, this lifetime, or on this planet, it needs to become illuminated so we can then move forward and shift and transform and heal it. Have you found that same principle for you, or what you're seeing going on in the world right now, talking about transformation?
I had a guest on my show some years ago. She says, everyone says the way to God is the light. But she says, I kind of care to differ. I said, how's that? She goes, the way is through the dark. Because you can't get to the light without, one, dissipating the darkness that exists inside of oneself. And I had an aha moment by what she said. When I look out into the world, I see a big illusion. Except that which brings me joy. And that which brings me joy is the reality. I don't turn a blind eye to it. My heart is full of compassion about what's happening in the world. And so, but I know I have the wisdom to know to not water the weed.
Yeah. And how do we do that? How do we do that if we're being faced, or if we're facing chaos? The news that are constantly going on. How do you do it personally in your own life to keep watering the flowers, the plants, instead of the weed? What are some of your
That's
tools?
a fantastic question. Actually, one, if your trouble and your difficulties happening through the news, don't watch the news. That's obvious, right?
Yeah.
But the other, when it comes to personal stuff, personal, dense, dark stuff, how do you stay focused on the plant? I can only tell you how to do it. I can put your hand on the light switch, but you have to be be the one that flips it. So how you do it is stop it. You just have to find the switch inside and turn it off, or actually turn it on, depending on what is your perspective, 6 or 9, 9 or 6. So a piece of motivation for you is realize as long as you're watering the weed, you're going to have this continue to manifest in your life. This is the causal universe. This is where Creator God lives. And this is the reflective universe. God's job, God is the pure white, lives inside. We are a projector. And so whatever filters we have, fear, jealousy, insecurities, stuff, anger, all that, your loves, your passions, it all gets projected on the screen that we call reality. And if your life is a horror flick, you have to change the film, because the light, God, unconditional love, does not care whatsoever what we do with our life, because it knows we can never hurt ourselves. Because if we could hurt ourselves, it would be the strict parent that would stop us from doing so. But God is the wishing tree that says, I love you. You do what you like. You can stay down there and play all you want. When you're ready to come back, I'll kick you in the pants, motivate you a little bit, and you'll be back home to split. It's really that easy.
And how do you keep that light switch on personally? Is it through meditation? Is it through inner alignment? Is there something really specific, tangible exercise that you do that you could share with us?
Meditation is primordial to spiritual awakening. It is the basis for, in my opinion, for being a good, decent, aware, powerful, responsible, intuitive human being. Awareness is your connection to source. Prayer is talking, we know. Meditation is listening. If it was a one-sided conversation, what would be the point? Yeah. We need to hear our divine parent. Yes. 4 things that I would like to offer the listening audience that I use to help stay in the watering the plant modality.
Yes, thank you. Share with us.
If you're looking at me, this is not a bragging point for Keith. There is a fire in me. There's a fire in me.
Yes, yeah. And we're putting
there
up the
is
picture
no way that when I go to manifest something, it's not going to happen. It's just not, it's not an option. That fire says it may take 1,000 years, but I'm going to keep pushing forth.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. That choice does not exist in me. Passion is the fire. It's the active. It's to get in there and roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty kind of thing. And just that kind of energy, right? The fire. Sincerity is the other side of the same coin of passion. Yeah. And sincerity is, I mean it. Yeah. I'm serious about this. It's the passive. And passion is the active. And sincerity can be likened to your grandmother's bosom, that soft place where you want to fall. The other, to stay in the alignment of always watering your life plant, would be vulnerability, making yourself open. Becoming vulnerable, because there's a trust factor that happens in vulnerability. If we look at the analogy of Christ being nailed to a cross, there's a plane coming down, heaven coming down, and there's a plane going across, the earth plane. And where do they intersect? Right there, right in the heart. And so Jesus made himself vulnerable. He exposed himself. He exposed his core. And he showed us exactly the disposition and the place we need to live in. And that's right there. In that Stargate, it's actually, I heard on my radio show the other night, they call it the womb, the cosmic womb. When you open up this Stargate, wow. And the 4th component to living as always watering the plant of your life is humility. Why, when we see Tibetan Buddhists, they're like this? Yeah. Because they're wise. Why would Jesus wash the feet of Thomas before the crucifixion, knowing he was the one that was going to rat him out? Because it's humility. Said the life of Mother Teresa. Humility. Yeah. Those 4 components, passion being the active, sincerity being the passive, vulnerability and humility. And when you live from these 4 variables of spirituality, things open up in a very, very big, monumental kind of way. And then you can begin to live your life with effortless ease. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to strain. You don't have to stress. You're riding the current, the cosmic life stream. And you don't even have to put your paddles down. You don't have to use your paddles to turn around. Put your paddles down. The current will turn you, and downstream you go. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. And I hope our Rebel Hearts listeners are just being so inspired. And I love giving you guys something that is so tangible that you can actually use and apply. So this was just brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Keith. I want to change a little bit of our focus over here and go into what's happening on this planet at the moment, the immense, incredible transformation that we're currently going through. Some people call it going into a new golden age. Some people we're going into the age of enlightenment. How are you finding, or how are you describing what is currently happening on our planet?
I see it as expansion. And I personally feel that because of this solar eclipse, it's a metaphor, but yet it is aligned, is that it's expanding. Everything's expanding. Your life is expanding. whether you're watering the weed or watering the plant.
Yeah.
Now, this is happening not only singularly or as an individual or personally on a personal level, because personal individuals do get together and create groups. So this is happening on a mass scale. And it looks like things are becoming ripped apart.
Yes.
The positive, the negative, the good, the light, the dark, the right, the wrong. That is the illusion I'm asking you, I'm imploring you, I'm supporting you in getting out of, because that's duality. Yeah. We're not seeking duality. We're already
We're
here.
Done.
What we want is wholeness. So instead of seeing things as things are getting worse and things are getting better, they're just expanding into their fullness. Now, let's speak about, let's speak on a human level for a moment.
Yeah.
In that duality, things are pulling apart. And one day, all that's going to be left are the people that live in wholeness. So in this world of right and wrong, good, bad, light, dark, even in those dark places, all I see is a symphony, a harmony, a beautiful creation that wants to unfold unto itself, into its highest order. So if you are a person that's having trouble in your life, those troubles are your path. They're trying to say to you at last, please look for the diamond in this peanut butter jar, because the diamond is still a diamond, and that's who you are, and you're a diamond. In fact, when you want to create something beautiful in your life, place a flawless diamond right there in your third eye and in your heart, and exist from those places and create your life from those places, and watch what happens. You will begin to see the beauty everywhere. So, but I do think that there's a dynamic, Kristie, that's happening in the world that is leading us to a point, a critical point, where something's going to just tilt or expand or bang or happen.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like kind of what we talked about. Things are becoming illuminated in order to be healed, and there is this tremendous shift that is currently happening. And it's interesting. People who've never even talked about spirituality or awakening or anything along those lines, all of a sudden are having this awakening, no matter if it's through an illness or through, like what happened with you, through a relationship that fell apart, through some kind of great pain that they're going through. And it's literally pushing them into dealing with the dark, which is not, for me, it's also pain and patterns that we have, and healing it and changing that dial, changing that focus so we can move into a higher vibration. What is your vision? What are you seeing happening over the next few years on a global scale that is kind of, bringing the shift about, or bringing the shifts, plural, about?
I think we're going to make it. In fact, I'm sure of it. I can't begin to process the idea that the divine is doing this because we're not going to be successful. Now, who the we are, that's a different story entirely. I don't ever assume to have all the answers, but I know that my alignment of the joy I have in my life tells me the models and principles I use to create and live and experience life has to be the truth, because we all want peace. We all want joy. So the amount of joy you have in your life is your inner compass, just like you said. So we want to see this world in a place of love. Love is not a mere sentiment in a relationship between two people. That's compatibility or incompatibility, depending on how you get along with your life partner. Love is acceptance, allowance, and appreciation of all people and all things all the time. It's a place of non-judgment. And again, those four components: passion, sincerity, vulnerability, and humility. Love is just the whole pie of those four facets, because when we're no longer in judgment mode, we no longer see the duality of that world that we were talking about a minute ago. All we see is perfection and wholeness. And people go, Keith, it's hard for me to look out and see a world with these kinds of blissful glasses. It's not. You have to get yourself out of that grind of what we were taught, and also maybe find yourself in a new place of what you were not taught, and see how it feels to be in the current of what other people who live in bliss have to offer.
Yeah. And the world is a reflection of what energy we send out. So we can change the world by changing how we think, how we feel, what we believe. And you said something that, and I want to share this with you said something along the lines of, it's, this is how we have shown up in our life with these emotions or these patterns. And my observation has been through what we call the third dimension, through this time of duality, we've been taught that suffering is a virtue, sacrifice is a virtue, pain is a virtue, and you need to live in pain on this planet in order to be a good person. And the more you live in deprivation or suffering, the better of a person you are. So there have been centuries or even millennia of that group consciousness imprinting, and it's showing up in, no matter if it's in religious or spiritual communities. And again, it's taking that dial and turning it around and changing our focus from, watering the wheat of suffering to actually watering the plant of joy. And when you talk about people saying, well, how can I be in joy if all these things are going on? I think it also has to do with training that muscle of the imprinting that is so in our DNA, that is held on planet Gaia, planet Earth, and changing it and transforming that vibration.
All those things you said is an heirloom that's been passed down from, it's the same ratty pair of pants that your great-great-great-grandparent passed on down the line, and we still use these models. And you're right, it's become so imprinted. It's such an engram. It's become part of our DNA. And the kids that you speak about, the rainbow, indigo, diamond, and crystal children, they are here to level that. They're here to dissipate all that stuff. And Rebel Hearts, your show, they're here to rebel. Not in an anarchy type of way, but rebelling meaning you are not going to push me off of my center, because I am here with a mission. And until you realize that, I'm going to be playing it like a lightning rod.
I love that.
Right?
And rebelling with our hearts. That's why it's called Rebel Hearts.
Yes, Kristie, if I may, I would like to give an analogy. And then I would like to use this technique so I can impart to your listening audience a gift, a gesture of absolute love. I love everyone.
I love that.
I might not like everybody, but I love you. And years ago, I was coming out of a band rehearsal, and I was walking to my truck. On the way to the truck, there was a sign on a big fence that I noticed, and it was big, bold red letters. It said, "Beware of dog." And at that time in my life, I had a pretty intense fear of dogs. And they already said, "Hey, Mr. Keith Blanchard, you need to be careful. We already have a sign on the yard warning you, possible trouble." So I go to that position. So in that position, disposition, I'm shut down. Nothing can come through. I'm in fear. That's funny how fast he got that up. Beware of dog.
We're just putting up a picture for whoever is listening to that on iTunes or iHeartRadio. I have to go back to
I begin to walk to my truck, still scared, kind of doing one of these kind of things, waiting for a dog to lunge out at me. And because of my passion to move through my fears, I have a fear, I walk right through it. You have a tree that's rotting in your backyard, and there's a whole bunch of dead branches. You can eventually get rid of your fears by cutting each one, or you can pull out a chainsaw and whack it down and be done.
Yeah.
That's how I operate. So I'm walking to my truck, and with my passion to move through this fear of dog, God spoke to me clearly and loud as day. It said, "Keith, turn the sign around." I said, "Turn the sign around?" It said, "Look at it again. Turn the sign around." I had an awareness shift, because if you turn the sign, "Beware of dog" around, beware. The opposite of beware is be aware. Instead of shutting down beware and not seeing, be aware means open up and see. And God, a dog backwards, D-O-G, is God. G-O-T. I had an awareness shift, and that was the very first awareness expansion modality I've had in my life. Because it convinced me that there is something beyond my present small peripheral reference. So what I would like to offer to everyone is this exercise. You may think this is just a little parlor trick. It's not. It's that 25-pound weight we talked about a minute ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay, give us a
Okay?
25
And if
pounds.
you can begin to live in that. So what I'm asking the listening audience to do, and the viewing audience, if you would, is look at me and don't take your eyes off of me for whatever I say. Don't take your eyes off of me. Take me in. Become aware of this experience with me and you. So you're hearing me dialogue, and your awareness is one pointed, focused on me. And as you're keeping your eyes on me, I want you to become aware of the taste in your mouth. Become aware of the temperature on your skin that's in the room. Keep your eyes on me. Become aware of any light source around you. Just use your peripheral awareness. Become aware of any other sound in the room, just a car passing by. Become aware. As I directed you to these different points of awareness, your awareness went there, 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 and there. Mm-hmm. Now, take all of that in at the same time. Me, the taste in your mouth, the feeling on your skin, any external noises, what's peripherally next to you. Live in that open, expanded space, because that is a greater degree of who you really are. And if God is infinite awareness, the more we begin to work our awareness mass, the more we can see. So miracles, synchronicities, alignments, serendipities, they begin to pop out like firefly. And then your life will become one of unfoldment, effortless ease, and you will contact me in the future and you'll go, "Dear Lord, Keith," and I'm saying, "Congratulations. That's all I really ever wanted for you."
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I could feel it. And everybody who's listening to that on iTunes or iHeartRadio, go to my YouTube channel, KristieReeves.com, and you can actually see Keith and repeat that exercise. I'm just looking at the time over here, and we talked about the bursts of light. Do you feel like giving us a burst of light, Keith?
Wow. Is there any certain subject you want me to speak about? Intuition, death, anything?
Anything? Well, the topic for today was about love and transformation, so maybe love or transformation or both.
When you begin to love, you begin to transform. When you are willing to transform, you begin to set yourself on a course of your true destiny. And that true destiny is you. So who are you, mind you? It's you right here. It's synonymous with spirit. There is no difference. If you have a fear in your life to own your divinity, that space in your life is void of God, because God doesn't dwell in fear. It's an illusion created by us. And it's also a space void of the real you. It's void of the real you. And until you begin to live, dwell, appreciate, have that fire, that sincerity, and use vulnerability to open you up, but also humility in your life to keep you in it, you will expand. You will expand. There really is no other work to do. It's not all this metaphysical cliche stuff that you have to do to spiritually evolve. You're living heaven on earth right now. And if your heaven is misery, then so be it. You are still in your heaven on earth. It's about aligning yourself with the cosmic dialogue. That's why Buddhist monks are humble. They're open to hearing source, their own creator, your own creator that lives in everyone. And when we get out of misery, being addicted to misery, getting out of drama, following those who are living a life of bliss, that bliss will spill over and begin to ooze into your life. And you will become the meek.
I think I have to take a moment. This was amazing. Thank you. Jarvis, how are you doing over there behind the camera? He's nodding his head. Wow, that was incredible. The moment you started talking, it was so amazing. I could feel a buzzing vibration in my whole system. And then my whole body got really hot, which usually means your DNA is changing when everything goes hot and cold and hot and cold. But I could feel it in my whole beingness. That was incredible. I hope everybody who's listening, you're all feeling this. Just feel like, I want to take a breath over here.
Yeah, when I fall into that space, the me that I know me in normal waking states of consciousness refuses to exist. It in fact, it goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
Something else that lives in me, that said fire I mentioned earlier, begins to step to the fore. And something I want to impart to your audience as well again. When you're in public, intermingling with other people, try this. Oh, wow, try this. Find something about that person, be it a physical beauty, physical attribute, the tone of their voice, a dialect, if they're from another country, a piece of jewelry, anything that wows you, that it just you can just wow, it's just gorgeous, and begin to hyper focus and hyper fix on it. Keep with it and keep massaging that aspect of that person. And you will, when you reach that space inside of yourself of absolute joy, and that oh wow, that's a beautiful voice this lady has. Wow. You will see God walk out of that person right in front of your face. It'll change. It will change. It will change. When you find God in another person, and if you use this amulet as an excuse, or whatever you're using as an excuse, you will see a person morph right in front of your face. You will see something step to the fore, and you will see them begin to heal just by being in your presence. Powerful place to live in.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. We have a couple of minutes remaining. And before we finish up over here, do you have a final message to the Rebel Hearts audience that you'd like to share? I mean, that was already an amazing message, but if there's another one.
Go inside. See everything from a space of you deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve everything. You deserve it all. You have to believe that you deserve it. You have to want it. You have to want it like your breath. You have to want it. It has to become your manna. It's to be the best you possible. Don't worry what people think. That's irrelevant. What people think about you is none of your business. In fact, it's not even real. Your concern about what people think is what makes your concern about what people think about you real, and brings that stuff into your life. Find your passion, live your passion. When you do what you love, if God is love, when you do what you love, you are aligned. You are aligned. So if you live in a 9-to-5 grind, God bless you if you're not doing what you love. When you take on your loves, even for moments at a time, you can begin to work that 25-pound weight, that muscle, until 5 years from now, in hindsight, you can look back and go, oh my God, I'm glad I started doing those things that just give me joy. Because now you can quit the 9-to-5 grind. But Keith, I can't do what I love because, well, you go tell that to fused florists down the street if you love flowers. Or you tell me that as a musician, I can't do what I love. You're talking to the wrong cat.
Yeah.
We have a belief in the consciousness of America that we can't do what we love and be successful and abundant. It's hogwash. Live your joy. Live your passion. Be good to yourself, to everybody around you.
Amazing. I have chills. I have goosebumps. Thank you. Keith, before we wrap up over here, how can the Rebel Hearts listeners find you? Tell us also quickly about your radio show.
My radio show is Center of Light Radio. Monday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So that would be 3 p.m. your time. Centeroflightradio.com or KeithAnthonyBlanchardradio.com. It's the same website. I have my hands on lots of things. Radical transformation. I'm going to be creating a book around this presentation idea model tonight. You can find me at Facebook.com/Keith Anthony Blanchard. I'm very approachable. You can see that. I love people. People are my life. I can just grab people and eat them alive. You know what I mean? I just love it all over me. But tonight at 8 o'clock Central Time, which is 6 o'clock, go to Facebook.com/Keith Anthony Blanchard. On my wall, I'm going to be doing a Burst of Light live feed about music. Always stay in touch with me. I'm very approachable. I will always return your contact. You can bet.
Yeah, he is. He's amazing. Thank you so much, Keith, for being on the show today. It was an honor speaking with you. I think I'm going to fly out of the studio today because this was so incredible. So thank you for joining us. Okay, Rebel Hearts. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Rebel Hearts with Kristie Reeves. And my website is finally up. So go to www.kristiereeves.com. That's KRISTIEREEVES.com. And all the previous episodes are there, no matter if you're listening to it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or looking at it on... I think we have the YouTube links up on the website, and you can subscribe and you get the information whenever there's a new show available. And thank you so much again. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for being here with us today. And remember to rebel on.
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.